Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jane. Welcome to a new video. In this video I'm going to be showing us how to draft a waistcoat, or rather a vest, a very stylish long vest that will cut all the way to your hip area. If this is something you're interested in, please watch the video to the end. On this channel I upload pattern drafting and sewing tutorials. Please do well to subscribe, leave a comment and like. So these are the tools and the fabric that I'm going to be using. I have the hairstay, I have my lining and the main fabric. Now on my pattern paper, I've gone ahead to trace the front and the back pattern from the shoulder to the waist. This is just so that the video is not too long. And also on the front, I have given a space from the center front of 2 inches. This is for where the button is going to be sitting. Now, to develop the pattern further, we are going to include our hip circumference. So the length of the waist to the hip that I'm working with here is 9 inches. So what I'll do is place my tape at the waistline and then I'm going to measure out 9 inches. So I'll go ahead now to mark out 9 inches all across my paper. And then I'll use the ruler to draw a horizontal line across. So this new line is going to serve as the hip line. Okay, so at this point when you've gotten the hip line, ensure to extend the line towards the button lines. Now on the hip line, you're going to take your hip circumference divided by 4 and then you're going to place the value. Please ensure that this measurement is coming from the center front line. Now when you've gotten the value, you're going to use your ruler to mark out the curve that runs from the waist down to the hip. When you've gotten this, the next thing is to extend the dart leg. The bust span we are using for the dart here is 3.75. I've gone on to mark that on my hip line and also towards the hip area. Then I connected with a straight line to meet up with the waistline. Now at that hip area, I'm going to go up by 2 inches. This is where I want the dart to stop at. Okay, so 2 inches I went up at that line. Then I went ahead to redraw the dart to meet the waist area as well. So we've created the darts in that side. Next thing you want to do now is to include your underbust. Now you can decide to leave out the underbust if you don't want to, but I just wanted to add a little bit of contouring at the underbust area. That is why I'm going to be taking an underbust measurement. So for the underbust, my measurement for the underbust is 13 inches. So I'll place my tape at the shoulder line and I'm going to mark 13 inches. So go ahead now and mark 13 inches at your underbust area. Whatever value you have for your underbust, you go ahead and mark that. So that's what I've done here. Then I marked out a straight line as well. So this new line is our underbust line. Now at that underbust area, I'm going to take my underbust circumference, which is 7.5, and when I've taken that measurement, you see that I still have extra. So at the underbust area, I'm going to take 0.75 for the underbust contouring on both area. So towards the left side of the dart and the right side of the dart, I marked 7.5 on the underbust. Then I went ahead to use my straight ruler to bring down the dart leg of the underbust down to the waist area. So ensure to bring down the dart leg of your underbust to reconnect back to the existing dart lines you have on your waist, running on your waist down to the hip. I'll repeat the same thing for the side front of the pattern. I went on to connect from the 0.75 that I marked as my underbust area, and then I brought it down to meet the hip line, the remaining part of the dart. Okay, now this part is optional. You can choose to leave it out. The next thing you want to do now is to create the button extension. So we are going to be using 1-inch button extension for this vest. So what I've done here is to go on to mark 1 inch from the center front line. I went on to measure out 1 inch from the shoulder line down to the hip line. And when I've marked that out, I'm going to use my ruler to draw out a straight line running from the shoulder line down to the hip line. So this new 1 inch that I have just marked is going to serve as our button extension. All right, so when you are done with that, you're going to now extend your neck area. Just go ahead and mark a straight line to extend your neck opening area towards that side. When you've gotten that, I'm just going to indicate that this is where the buttons are going to be sitting. Now, on your hip line, you're going to go up by, from the hip line, you go up by 4.5 inches, okay? On your hip line, you go up by 4.5 inches. Then you're going to come to the hip line. On that same hip line, you're going to measure either 3 inches thereabout. Just measure 3 inches inward from your hip line, and then you're going to draw out a triangular line that connects from the button extension to the hip area. I hope you understand. Okay, so you come in by 3 inches from the hip line, and then towards the button line, come up by 4.5 or 5 inches, depending on what you are comfortable with. Then you go ahead to mark a triangular line to connect these 2 points. Now, when you're done, towards the side seam, you go up by 1 inch. This is just so that that side is not pointed and it's giving a curvy effect. So at that side, I went up by 1/2 inch towards the side seam of this pattern. I went up by 1 inch, then I connected it back to the hip area. Okay, so this is it for the pattern. The next thing you want to do now is to draw out the princess seam. So this vest is going to have a princess line. So from your armhole line, you take your ruler and you're just going to draw out a line that looks like a princess seam line. Just draw out from your armhole to meet the bust point. Okay, you see what we have right now. After you have drawn out that line from the armhole to meet the bust point, you have automatically created the armhole princess seam. So I've cut out the remaining pieces of my pattern. This is what it looks like. The next thing we are going to do now is to cut out the dots. Now, when you are done cutting out the dots, you will discover that the princess seam area might not align and you might have a little bit of gaping at that area. So for me to be able to eliminate gaping at the part where we have the armhole princess seam running, I'm going to take 0.75 inch at that point. So I went on to mark 0.75 inch at the tip. Then I used my curve ruler to mark a curved line from that point to meet the bust point on our pattern. So just watch the video carefully and see the way that I used my ruler to remove that bulge, that excess bulge that might occur at the armhole area. So after marking out that 0.75 at the tip of the armhole, what I'm going to do next is to just cut it out. Okay, cut that part out. After you have marked out that point, just go ahead and cut it out. So right here, I'm just ensuring that the curve that I took at that point is accurate, so we have accuracy at that point. After that is done, I went ahead to cut that little excess out. Cutting this little excess will eliminate any form of bulginess or any form of gaping towards the armhole. Now, when you're done cutting this out, we are going to do a little bit of addition to the tip, just so that when you stitch the side and the center front together, it kind of aligns. So what you need to do is to bring another separate pattern paper. Just get any sheet of paper you have, place it underneath your center or underneath your side front pattern. Okay, you can use your gum to hold it down. When you have done this, the next thing you want to do now is to increase the tip of the armhole. Now, to do this, we are going to be increasing it by the 0.75 inch that we took out earlier. So I went ahead to increase. You can see I used my free hand here. I went ahead to increase the tip of this armhole by 0.75. Okay, after increasing it, I'm just going to also use my free hand to reconnect it back to the side of the armhole. Just watch the video, you will understand the explanation if you feel like you didn't get this part. So just go ahead and reconnect that extension you have marked at the tip towards the armhole again. and then you go on to cut it out. It's as simple as that. So in adding up this 0.75 to the tip will make the pattern not to be short at that armhole area. I hope you understand. Okay, so right now I'm just cutting out the excess. After cutting out the excess, so when you place your pattern side by side, you see that it matches up at the armhole, and if you have excess when you are stitching, you can just go ahead and cut off the excess. So this is it for the front. I've cut out the darts, and this is it. I've cut out all of the seam. When we are transferring this onto our pattern, we are going to add our stitching allowance on the pattern. Okay, so moving on to the back, this is what we have for the back as well. We are going to be repeating the same thing we did for the front to the back. So I'm going to go ahead and extend the center back line downwards. Then I'll do the same thing. I'm going to take the length of my hip from the waist down to the hip. I'm going to be taking the same 9 inches that I took for the front on the back. I'm going to go ahead and mark that across and then use my ruler to extend the lines. Okay, so just go ahead after marking out, you just use your ruler to extend the line, though this will be the hip line for the back, and you're going to take your waist hip circumference on the hip line as well, like we did for the front. When you've gotten the hip circumference divided by 4, place the measurement on the hip line, connect down to the waist. So when you're done doing this, and you are also going to take the 1 inch you took at the side, remember that. So after this is done, the next thing you want to do is to take your dart placement like we did for the front. The dart placement is your bust band divided by 2. Okay, so bust band divided by 2 is what you're going to be placing on your hip line as well. Then you're going to extend the line to meet your waist area. So at this point, I'm extending my dart legs for the dart, and I'm connecting it to meet the waist area. Now, when you come to the hip line, you're going to go up by 2 inches like we did for the front, and you're going to draw out the dart shape at that side. So after you're done with this, the next thing you want to do now is to also extend the 1 inch line we have at the side. Remember, we took 1 inch at the side, went up by 1 inch to create the curve by the side. So we are going to use our ruler to extend that. After you're done with this, you're going to be taking a dart at the waist area. This dart is so that you can eliminate any bulge that will happen on the waist area of the back. So on the waistline, I came in by 1/2 inch, and then I created the dart from that waist down to the hip area and extended it towards the chest of the back, and that will be it for the back. Now for the back, you can either decide to leave yours this way or also create a princess seam for the back. So I'm going to be creating a princess seam for my back as well, and it's just very easy. Just use your ruler and connect to the armhole line with a curve, and that will be all. The next thing I've done here is to add my stitching allowances all around. I added 1/2 inch at the shoulder and the armhole line at the length of this vest. Okay, I added extra 1/2 inch at the center back. I added 1 inch at the side, and then I went ahead to cut out. I cut out the dart. You can see the way that I am splitting the dart open. It's going to be 2 pieces for the back like we have for the front. So this will be it for the back, and here we are done with this pattern. I'll repeat the same thing for the front. I'm going to be adding my stitching allowances on the fabric like I stated for the front. So guys, if you watched up to this point, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you found this video helpful, please do well to like, share and subscribe. Please remember that this pattern has a side dart to it, so when you are transferring this onto your pattern, onto your fabric, ensure to close your side dart. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Stay blessed. Bye.